Hello, welcome to episode 13 of a Lovely Yarn podcast. My name is Amber and I am filming from my home in Western Pennsylvania. Today is Thursday, November 29th, and I'm so glad that you are watching. Thank you so much. So, just to chatter a little bit before I get into the knitting. What have I been up to? Well, my birthday was on November 17th. I turned 39. And my family completely spoiled me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that a bit later at the end of the podcast when I talk about my acquisitions or stash enhancement. But we basically, I was very pampered that day. We went into Pittsburgh and we went to my favorite gluten-free, dairy-free bakery. And I got a couple treats. And then we went to IKEA, which is on the other side of the city, and I picked up some stuff for our Christmas decor and for Christmas dinner. I host Christmas dinner every year, so I like to go there to get like some centerpieces and the tableware. And then what did we do after that? Oh, we went out to eat. Forgot we stopped for dinner on the way home. So it was a really nice day. I had a really good time. And I seriously felt spoiled though. I almost felt guilty, but my family had fun spoiling me. I like to make a big deal of birthdays here in our home. Not so much with mine, but like my kids and my husband's. I don't know, it just seems like a really special holiday for me. Celebrating people's birthdays. Okay, and then what else? Oh, I have been cleaning like a crazy woman. So a few years back, hold on, let me adjust this just a tad bit. Okay. I don't know. I just needed to make an adjustment. I'm not sure if it really did what I wanted to do anyway, but I don't know. Let's carry on. Maybe if I do that. Okay, so, oh yes, cleaning. So a couple of years ago, I just did this major clean out. It was after I read the book, The Magic Art of Tidying Up. I think that's what it's called. So I read that and I think it was fall or winter. And I spent then the next, 4 or 5 months just cleaning every nook and cranny. Like, I hate to sound cliche, but I literally did. I went through desk drawers. I went through nightstand drawers. My nightstand had become, like my one little drawer had become just a total junk collection of just little odds and ends that had no really, they just didn't have a good home. So I ended up finding a nightstand that didn't have any drawers, and it was at a thrift store for a couple bucks. I bought it. Because, well, first of all, I like the look of it, but also I thought if I don't have a drawer to put stuff in, then I won't accumulate anything, which it's worked. I've had it now for 2 or 3 years. Whenever I cleaned out everything, I just have a little basket on my nightstand that I put in my lip balm and hand lotion, and actually I have a headlamp in there because at night I will read under the covers, and I use my headlamp and I get under the covers so I don't bother my husband while he's trying to fall asleep. So yeah, I have that, but needless to say, because it had been a couple years, we had accumulated some more things that I thought we just don't need this stuff. So I have been cleaning. Last week was our American Thanksgiving here in the States. So we took the whole week off of school essentially. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I really concentrated on cleaning out, decluttering, getting rid of stuff. And I think because it only took me 3 days because I had done like a massive one back a few years. In fact, when I did that one originally, I got rid of probably about 50% of our belongings, like everything that we owned. I got rid of like 50% of it. In fact, it was so bad I was embarrassed. I was taking stuff to our local thrift store quite frequently, and I'm talking like the whole back end of my vehicle was full of stuff. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous that I have this much stuff to even donate. It was like a real slap in the face. I don't have that much this time. I have like 3 boxes and a big garbage bag full of clothing. And I also just threw out a bunch of stuff like papers and just stuff that I, just laying around that's garbage. So that felt really, really good. I have not tackled our basement, but our basement we keep pretty clean anyway. But there are some things down there that I'm sure we could get rid of, donate. We don't use it anymore. But so since I did this massive clean out originally, I've been trying to be really mindful about what I bring into our home. Now, I love thrifting. I love going to antique stores. Like, that is just really fun for me. But I have noticed that I don't buy things just because, first of all, they're like inexpensive, and second of all, if I don't love it, it's become much easier for me just to leave it. Not just stuff at the thrift store, stuff when I go to stores, just I think, do I love this? Do I absolutely love this? And is it going to make me happy when I look at it? Or is it going to be one of those things where in, I don't know, like 6 months, I think, wow, that was kind of a waste of my money. Sometimes that's hard to like predict, but most of the time it's fairly easy for me. So that's whenever, so I have that same attitude then when I'm cleaning stuff out. So things that, for instance, my clothing, I look at it and I think, okay, I haven't worn this in a year, so I'm probably not going to wear it. Or, yeah, I like the look of it, but it's not really my style. Like, what was I thinking when I bought it, It's not amber. It's not an amber piece of clothing. And just anything. That's just how I do it anymore. But so anyway, needless to say, this is a knitting podcast, but I'm talking about cleaning. Oh my goodness. But I did that and it felt so good to have just gotten rid of all that stuff. The garbage, the donated items. And it'll feel even better when I actually take them to the thrift store because they're still in boxes in the hallway in my basement. So I still feel a little heavy from that, but once everything is out of the house, it's going to feel awesome. So that's what I've been up to. I wonder if you're still with me because I totally rambled there about that. One other thing I want to talk about before I start talking about the knitting stuff is I want to talk about this wreath. I think what I'll do is I'll just like insert a picture here of the whole thing. But I just watched Lerke's Fiber Tales podcast. It wasn't the one she just published, but I think the one before that or 2 episodes ago. But she had just gone out and gathered, she just made a wreath and then she strung like the fairy lights around it. I've had this wreath hanging in, this is our bedroom that I film in, and we've had this hanging in here for years. And this has a sentimental story. It's made from grapevine. Let me see if I can just kind of pan up there and, okay. Hopefully that doesn't throw me all out of focus now, but, all right. Brad and I, much, much earlier in our marriage, so we've been married 18 and a half years now, we went out to the woods at the back of our property and we gathered grapevine, a bunch of grapevine, and some other, like there's some straw here from the field and some other dried flowers from the field, and we made this together. And I think it was around one of our earlier anniversaries. I think our oldest biological, who is Ian, so he's 15. I think it was like when he was maybe 1 or 2, so several years into our marriage. And so we've had this hanging up here. It's mostly been in our bedroom, just hanging over our chairs. This is where we have coffee together. And so I really love that wreath. And when I saw that she had put the lights on hers, I thought, oh, I'm going to string lights. So I bought a couple strands of these fairy lights and strung it around, and I think it looks really pretty. So thanks for that inspiration, Lerke. And it was also good for me to pull this down in string lights because I have not cleaned that thing off. Do you know how hard it is to clean wreaths made of grapevine? So I got my vacuum cleaner, like the hose part, and I just sucked up as much dust as I could, and let me tell you, that was dusty. So it's clean now too, mostly clean anyway. But now, shall we get into knitting? Okay, So I'm going to start talking about my finished objects, and I only have one. This is a hat that I knit. It's on Ravelry, and it is a free pattern. I will link it below. Anything I talk about, I will try to remember to link below. This is the basic Norwegian star pattern, and I have not worn it yet. I blocked it, and then as usual I wanted to wait until I podcasted about it before I wore it. But it's made out of lamb's pride worsted. So let me show you. I showed you guys a bunch of these, a bunch of this yarn that I had purchased while we were in Maine this past August. And so I chose these 3 colors, and this is how it turned out. And I really like it. So this is, this lamb's pride is 85% wool, 15% mohair. It is a worsted weight. It's more of a rustic yarn. Not real rustic, but I would say it's definitely more, it's on that, it's leaning that way. And I noticed as I was knitting with it, you can tell, like, rustic yarn just feels differently when you knit with it. It's a little more, I think it's a little more tiring on your hands maybe, but not to the point where I didn't enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy any kind of color work. I love color work. It's so much fun. Okay, so this light color is called Sandy Heather, and that's the main color of my hat. And then for the Norwegian stars, I used this. This is like a burgundy, very brown tones underneath, and it is called Roasted Coffee. And then for the gold part, I used this one, which is called Warm Carmel. And now I'm excited because I get to wear this. I actually have I have 2 winter coats that I wear quite frequently that are really warm ones, and the one is almost exactly this color. And then my other coat is like a dark pine green, so this will go with that as well. But I really, really enjoyed this knit. And it was really quick, so I'm probably going to make a few more, maybe as gifts. We shall see. I've got plenty of the yarn to mix up colors and stuff, so yeah, that was a very, very fun knit. I don't know what else to say about it other than I had fun with it. Try it out. I might have adjusted the pattern a bit. I know I reversed some of the colors in from the chart, but it was nothing like, I don't know, it was not that big of a deal. I like the mohair in here because it gives it a nice fuzzy, that's what mohair does, and you can't see that on the camera, but it's just so nice and rustic and fuzzy looking. It's going to be so warm because of, you know, you have the color work inside, so it makes like a double thick fabric. So I'm anticipating this will be a really warm hat to wear this winter. Okay, so that is my only finished object. I have some works in progress. The first one I want to talk to you about, this is my bag from Olivia, This Handmade Life on Instagram. Probably showed you this before. So in here I am knitting something with my hand spun. This is fiber that is from Sweden. I purchased this from Carolyn, and I spun this up, I think last spring, maybe. Yeah, it was like last spring. I cannot show you this knit, but I will just give a little peek. I love the smell of this. This is a secret test knit. I say secret because I don't think we're supposed to be talking about it, but it is filling up this bag. Like, it is getting really, really big, and I have a fair amount to go yet. I am getting closer to the end, and which is good because I have a deadline of December 10th. But it's really fun, and I really enjoy knitting with my hand spun, and I like how it's turning out. The interesting thing about this fiber is that it looks very gray, but there are some warm tones of like brown and tan, and every now and then you'll get this fleck of bright blue. which seems strange, but it must have been just like some neps that were left in the carder in the mill, and I don't mind it at all. It's actually quite interesting. And then there's also some very bright white flecks and neps, and so it's just a very nice yarn. I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a sweater out of this or a shawl. I wasn't really sure, but I'm glad I'm making this shawl because now that I have it knit up, I'm thinking it probably would be a little bit too itchy for me to wear up against my skin. Plus it has quite a bit of Angora in it, and then the rest is, I believe, fine wool. So I know Angora is a lot like alpaca and doesn't have memory. So that was another concern of mine for knitting up a sweater, that it wouldn't have good memory, that it would stretch out. So I am very glad that I chose this yarn to knit this test knit, which it is a shawl. I don't know if I said that or not. And I actually think I'm going to have just the right amount, which I had a lot of this handspun. So I thought, oh, I'm going to knit this shawl and I'm going to have a bunch of it left over, but I don't think I am. So that just tells you how big and cozy this shawl is going to be. It's going to be wonderful. So yeah, that is what's taking up most of my knitting time right now, because I do have that deadline. And I tend to be very focused, a very focused knitter. So if I have a deadline for a test knit, then I'm kind of obsessive about it. Like, I do let myself do some other knitting, but I really try to do have the majority of my knitting be for that test knit, because that is a responsibility of mine, you know. I treat it like a job. Okay, so that is my one work in progress. My other is this little, okay, well, this is, oops, there go my needles. This is kind of an acquisition as well, but I'm going to just throw it in right here. Actually, I'm just going to throw, I just bought a couple books off of Knit Picks. They had a big sale. It wasn't their 20% off sale that they just had. It was before that. Like, they had a bunch of their books and yarns on sale for extremely discounted prices. So I bought 2 books that are normally, I think they're normally $23. I got them for $3 each. It's amazing. And I was so excited because this is one of them, and I really had wanted this when it came out, but I didn't want to spend that much money. So when I saw that they had it on sale for $3, I was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. So this is their Merry Knit Miss book, and it has a bunch of different patterns to knit for Christmas. So I'll just show you stockings, little ornaments, sweater and stocking ornaments. Let me see what else we got here that I want to show you. Oh, I love this. I want to make us all stockings someday. I don't know how well that's showing up, but I love that one. And then I'd put our names at the top. And let's see what else. Oh, these little Christmas balls. I'm going to definitely knit some of those up. And I love this cabled skirt. I actually have a lot of Lion brand of the, I think it's Woolies Thick and Quick, from back years ago when I did, when I knitted and sold my stuff. And so I think I'm going to use, I have this, actually the same color, like this off-white. This probably isn't going to happen this year, but I'd like to make a tree skirt like this. It's a cabled one. Yeah, there's just some really pretty patterns in here. Quite a bit of color work, which I really like right now. So let me show you what I am working on at this moment. Okay, I am making these little snowflake ornaments. And I just got this book 2 days ago, so I haven't had a lot of time to work on it, but I will show you what I have done. The other night I knit this in, I don't know, like an hour and a half or something. This is the front. It's already been blocked. And I used, oh, here we go. Nature Spun Nature Spun Sport Weight. So this is from Brown Sheep Company, and it's 100% wool. So this is my front, and then I am working on the back. And the back is boring because it's just stockinette, and that's boring. This front piece flew because it was, I love color work because I love watching the patterns appear. Yeah, this is boring. I need to like forge through this. It's not even going to be that big, but I'm just, you know. So what I'm going to do is actually, you're supposed to do this and stuff it with like polyfill. I'm going to stuff it with some wool that I purchased a fleece, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But over the summer, I purchased a fleece from a farm that's somewhere, I believe somewhere here on the East Coast. And I don't remember what type of wool it was. But I have some like that wasn't nice enough to spin. So when I have fiber that is not nice enough to spin, like the seconds or just the stuff that's kind of like just not nice, okay, I'll just stuff it in a bag and with the intention of using that for stuffing. And that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to stuff this. You like whip stitch or blanket stitch it together, and then I'll put that wool in. And then I also have some balsam fir that I got up in Maine, and I've made balsam fir sachets in the past, and I really love the smell of balsam fir. It really reminds me of Maine, which is one of my favorite places, if not my favorite place in the United States that I've visited so far. So I'm going to put some balsam fir in with it. I think that'll be very nice and Christmassy, and it'll smell wonderful, woolly and balsam fir. And I'd like to say that I'd make several of these, but I probably won't because I want to try some other things. Like I want to make some of the Christmas balls. Oh, the one thing that this was the first time I knitted color work flat. And I have to say, I'm not crazy for that. All my other color work has been in the round, so you're always knitting your color work. This, you're knitting one way, and then you're purling the other. And I wasn't so crazy for that. Because normally when I knit color work, I hold one strand in I flick with one hand, and then I flick with this hand and throw with this one, if I'm doing two-stranded knitting. But when you I can't purl with this using my left. I hope I'm making sense. I just can't do it. I've tried. It looks horrible. So I was using my right hand for every stitch. That was kind of tedious because I'd have to drop one yarn, pick up the other, purl with it, drop it, pick up the other. So it took a while longer than what I'm used to with color work. But all that to say, I like this. It's cute. So I need to just crack on and finish the back so I can get it stitched together. And then I think what I'll probably do is want to start knitting some of these Christmas balls next, because these are knit in the round, so they'll go much faster. And then while I'm on it, I might as well just talk about the other $3 book I purchased that's also normally a $20-some book. It's this Strands of Color. It's another book by Knit Picks. And I actually like every single pattern in here, I think, which is really unusual. But I do want to show you this cowl that I am definitely going to knit as soon as I find it. Here it is. So I want to knit, I just really like this color work here. And I also want to knit these gloves, these fingerless mitts. And I actually want to do it in those colors because then I can wear it with my green coat, and I think that'll be nice. Yeah, so that's the other one. There's lots of pretty patterns in there. Okay. I think I need to pause and grab something else. Okay. Oh, I just realized I'm in the middle of a row. That was silly. Why did I stop in the middle of a row? I don't know. I try to get to the end of rows when I'm knitting before I stop, but for some reason I stopped in the middle. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you, I showed you last time. It's the Farmhouse Shawl by Cabin 4. I've hardly gotten anywhere on it. I don't think I've gotten much farther than the last podcast because I've been working on that test knit shawl. But here it is, and again, it's in the middle of a row, so I can't really pull it out or I'll end up pulling my stitches out. It has grown some since last time, but it's on hold because I'm almost done with this test knit and I want to finish that and then I can get back to this. I'm using Highland Worsted from Craftsy, and this is a, it's just 100% fine Highland wool. It's not superwash, so it does have to be hand washed. And the color, I thought this color had a name. Yes, Espresso Heather. So that is another work in progress. And I have one more work in progress. Okay, so I almost always have a pair of socks that I'm knitting. I bought some fiber or some yarn from Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fiber Co. and I posted about that. I talked about that on my last podcast. And when I saw the yarn, I knew that I needed to knit a pair of fur socks. So that's what I'm doing. So this fur sock pattern is from Melody Hoffman of Bee Mandarins. And let me show you. I wish I knew what color this was. Where did I put the band? In typical Amber fashion. I don't remember the color of it. I will put that below. Okay, it's showing up on the camera a little bit lighter than what it is. Why can I never get this to focus? Let me see. Does this work? Ah, there we go. I think that's focused. Okay, so see how pretty that is? It's such a beautiful pattern. And I'm down to, I need to start turning the heel. But I love the texture of this pattern. It is so easy. It's just slip stitches. I love what you can do with slip stitches. Okay, so this is, and so far I'm following this to the T. I'm following this pattern to the T. Yay, I think I'm finally figuring out how to do all the focusing stuff on my camera. Okay, so that's the first one. Of course, I still have a whole nother sock, but I'm not worried about getting second sock syndrome because I really like this pattern. Emma's yarn is naturally dyed, and it is also, this is like an 100% wool blend, sock blend, so it doesn't have any nylon or anything else man-made in it. It feels pretty durable and strong, so I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping it wears well. But time will tell. And then I also bought a second skein that I don't know what I'll do with yet. I'm sure I'll make another pair of socks, maybe even another one of this pattern. So, and I'm using my 9-inch circulars, a size 1. Oh, one thing about this pattern, usually when I make a pair of socks, I never remember. Is US 1 I think is the same as 2.25 maybe millimeter. So usually I cast on 64 stitches, almost always. And that's what I did for this. And I got probably about like this far, and I realized that this was going to be way too big on my foot, on my leg, and subsequently my foot. So I ripped it out and I did the 56 count stitch cast on, and this is making a much better fit. I haven't been able to really try it on yet, but I can tell. And I think it must be because of all the purls in between. It has a lot of stretch. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, normally I wear a 64 64 stitch circumference, but this one's a 56 for me. 64 was way too big. So yes, that's all I have to say about those socks. I'm loving that pattern, and I'm loving the yarn. It's so nice to work with an all natural yarn, sock yarn. So there's only one other thing that I have that's a finished object, and it has to do with dyeing, natural dyeing. So also on my birthday weekend, I think, no, maybe it was the weekend before, I don't remember. It was before that. I decided it was before that because it was when the black walnuts were still falling, which would have been like early November. I decided I wanted to dye some of my yarn, some of the yarn that I have in with black walnuts. I had never done that before. I just recently started dyeing natural dyes, or using natural dyes. And so I've only ever used avocados and black beans. So this is my first time using walnuts. My brother-in-law, who just happens to live back the lane, he like tends gas wells. I think somebody's coming into my room. Do you need something? I'm going to take just 1 minute break. Oh yes, my brother-in-law, he maintains gas wells in the county and the county next to us. So he's always out in the woods much more than I am. Because a lot of these gas wells are kind of isolated, you know. Anyway, I asked him if he could get me some black walnuts so that I could dye some yarn with, and he got a ton, and he ended up, sorry. My sister just texted me. I feel very distracted this podcast. Okay, so he decided he was going to also dye something with me. So, which is so funny, but it was very sweet. So he did everything. I told him what he needed to do. Like, I watched the videos on YouTube and I said, okay, this is what you need to do. And he got this huge barrel going of, and I was gone that whole Saturday. He heated it up, extracted the dye, strained out the walnut matter, and then when I got home that night, I went back. He had it set up in his garage because he has like some sort of propane heater. It was a huge, huge barrel. He dyed some leather boots. That's what he did. He wanted to dye some of his leather boots that he wears for work, but it was late. It was really cold out that evening. So what I did was I dropped the skeins into the barrel, and he turned off the propane, and I thought, you know what, whatever comes of it, comes of it. If, you know, I think you were supposed to simmer for an hour. But I thought, I'm just going to let it sit in there all night, and there's still enough heat in the extract, in the dye extract, that it'll be okay, I think. So I went back then the next day after church. So it sat in there for probably a good 14 hours. And this is what I got. Oh, it's showing so yellow. It's showing very yellow. I had a hard time. I posted a picture of this on Instagram as well, and I had such a hard time capturing this color. It's much more brown than this. It's not a dark brown, but it's definitely not as yellow. That, on what I'm seeing on my screen, is very yellow looking. Let me see if I can maybe try to focus on it. I don't know if that really helped, to be honest. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway. So this is what I got. This is a rustic wool. This is part of that batch of stuff that I got given to me from a neighbor who used to take care of a woman who had sheep, and she had spun all this, and then when she passed away, her children didn't want it, so they were going to pitch it. So my neighbor Linda brought it to me because she figured I would be able to do something with it. So it's a pretty rustic yarn. It's a thick and thin, and it's a 1-ply. I definitely could not wear this as a garment, like as a sweater, unless I was going to be wearing it as like an outerwear sweater. But what I am going to do with it, I think, is make a like a shawl to wear around me in the fall and spring when it's not freezing cold, but when it's chilly, like when I go outside and do chores or whatever. Because this is definitely going to hold up to a lot. I can tell it's that kind of a yarn. And it's a nice neutral color. So yeah, I have 6 skeins of that, and I'm not sure how many yards it is because I haven't measured it. But I'm certain there's enough here to make a nice big shawl, because it's probably more, I would classify this as an Aran weight to, even in places it's like a bulky weight because it is thick and thin. So it's always hard with hand spun yarns to really give them like a weight rating. But yeah, so that was my adventure in dyeing with black walnut, and I'm quite pleased with what I got, and I'm thankful that my brother-in-law did pretty much all the messy work. I was just gonna, when I had asked him if he could get me some black walnuts, I was just going to do like a little pot of it on my stove, and then when I got home and went back to his garage, he didn't look very good, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he said, "I don't know." He said, "I feel like I'm gonna throw up. I think it's the smell," and it did smell in his garage from those walnuts. So originally I was going, like, when I got home, I thought I'll go back, I'll get my pot full of the dye. I will take it up and I will heat it up tomorrow after church and dye then. But when I smelled that smell, and I don't know if this is typical for black walnuts, but it was very overpowering. He has a humongous garage, and the air was just saturated with this scent, very strong, and it was slightly nauseating. So he did all the dirty work. I just had to go back, throw my skeins in, and then go back the next day and pull them out and then rinse them. So that was a pretty good deal. Let me talk about, I want to talk about Advent next. Yeah, let's talk about Advent. Okay, so at this time of the year, I love the idea of doing something special for Advent as far as knitting goes. Last year, Olivia and I actually did a 12 Days of Christmas exchange. So I sent her like 12 packages, and she sent me 12 packages, and then we opened them up on the 12 days leading up to Christmas, like one per day. And that was so much fun. The reason I put that out there on Instagram last year, just asking if anybody would want to do that with me, like an exchange, because I love the idea of having an Advent calendar, but they are expensive, and I completely understand why. For me to pay like $150 to $200 plus dollars, I just cannot justify that. Maybe if I had a job, it just feels like too much of a frivolous purchase for me, as much as I would love to participate in that. So this year I did not ask anybody to do an exchange with me. I kind of dropped the ball on that. So the other day I was thinking, what can I do that would be special for the days leading up to Christmas, but had something to do with knitting. So I have this memory blanket, mitered square blanket, that I have been working on now for a while, and I've shown this before. Okay, and this is all I have. That's it. It's not that much. I have a lot of mini skeins. I have more than this down in my studio. Plus I have just balls that are left over from socks. Again, I have more of those downstairs in my studio. So what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to knit one square using a different color yarn each day leading up to Christmas. That's my plan. So that means that, and then also on Christmas Day, that means I'll get 25 squares knitted over the course of December. which that is just, I think that would be very motivating for me, because typically I don't work on this very often because it's kind of boring knitting. It's not hard knitting at all. Sometimes it's good to have boring knitting, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? I just thought that might be an interesting way. And I might even, like, I might wrap my mini skeins up. This sounds so pathetic. But if I wrap them up and don't mark them, then every day I can pick one and it'll be a surprise as far as like what color I'm going to be knitting that day. I think that sounds like fun, and I think that will motivate me to work on this. And then this could become like my countdown blanket. I can do it for all the holidays. I don't know. I thought that might be a nice thing to do, just to count down for Christmas. So it would have that benefit, plus it would have the benefit of just working on it and getting some more squares on here. Because it's going to be a lovely blanket when it's done. Just might take a while to make it big enough to like be useful. So, yeah, are you guys doing anything special? How many of you have purchased Advent calendars off of Indie Dyers? I think maybe one year I will save up and do that, but this year is not the year. I was looking, I know Opal used to put out a calendar, which was, I think, a little bit more affordable, which totally makes sense because that's commercially produced yarn. But I Googled that and I couldn't see that. I couldn't find it for sale this year. So I'm not sure if they just didn't do that this year, or I just wasn't looking in the right place, or maybe they were all sold out, because Advent calendars do typically sell. They start selling them early and they sell out quickly. Okay. I believe that's it for knitting, but I do have one more thing that I want to show you. So I'm going to pause this and grab it and come back. Okay. I don't think you can see this in the screen. So I wanted to show you my birthday gift from my family. So my husband Brad and my 3 kids pitched in and bought me, let's see if I can do this without dropping it, a drum carder. This is a Howard triple brush drum carder, which means it has 3 drums to run the fiber through. And I have wanted one of these for years. We used to have alpacas, which you guys, if you've been watching for any length of time, you probably know that. So I have so much alpaca fiber, and all I've ever been able to do is just use my hand carders, and that takes it's so laborious. It takes such a long time. It's not really practical for preparing a bunch of fiber. So this is going to help that. So they gave this to me Saturday morning, and before we left to go about our festivities that day, I could not help myself. I actually carded some of my alpaca. So let me grab that. I'm trying not to snag my sweater on these tines of this. Okay, so I just got 2 rolags of the alpaca. So I have this and this one. It's my alpaca. I can't even reach up there to get my focus button because this thing is really big on my lap. So I had that, and then I also worked on, I was talking about that fiber that I bought earlier in the summer that I'm going to stuff my ornament with. Well, I also decided to card some of that. So I got 3 rolags of that carded. A rolag is basically, so when you card, when you use the drum carder, you feed the fiber through. This is large and awkward, but so you feed the fiber through there, okay? That right there. It goes under that roller, the bottom roller, okay? And then it goes along, it goes onto the big barrel, and then you pull that off. And I ran this through 3 times before I got it to where I thought it was nice and I don't know, just nice, because as you card, you're going to pull off you're going to find seconds, you're going to find short pieces, you're going to find neps that are not nice, that you probably don't want to have in your carded wool. So you pull those out. So I found after 3 runs through my carder that I got the consistency of the yarn that I wanted, or of the fiber that I wanted. So this actually comes out in a flat piece. And then to make a rolag, I have like a wand that I just use. I put on my flat piece and I use it, and I roll the wool up around that wand, and then I just pull it off, and this is what you got. And then when I spin this, I'll actually pull from one of the ends and spin. And this will make more of a woolen spun yarn. This, and like when you spin from a bat, typically makes a more woolen spun. If you buy roving, then that is what gets you your worsted. And there's some other things that go along in there too, but just to simplify things, that I'm just going to say that. But so I have 3 of these. I have no idea how much I'm going to get out of that. This yarn, or this fiber, is very sheepy. And despite the fact that I scoured it, I can feel it's got a lot of lanolin in it. I don't mind that. I just noticed that, like, whenever I was carding it, especially, my hands actually your hands get really soft. Lanolin is like a natural moisturizer. So I don't mind it at all, but I don't know, maybe I'll spin this up and then make a pair of mittens out of it. And I really want to make thrummed mittens because I need something warm for my hands. My hands are always so cold, and so when I go out in the winter, they get painfully cold, and I have not been able to find a good pair of gloves or mittens that block out the cold. So I'm thinking if I do a wool like this that has the lanolin in it, and that's very rustic, and then add in some, knit it thrummed, I think that will add a nice layer of warmth. So that's what I'm thinking. So yeah, this was what they spoiled me with. I absolutely love it, and I'm really excited. I haven't got to play with it too much since then because we had Thanksgiving week and I was cleaning, and then we had Thanksgiving, and then Brad was off, and now we're back to school this week. But I am looking forward to mixing some of the different colored fibers I have and making some really pretty colored bats. So that'll be fun to play around with. Yeah, so I think that's all that I am going to talk about today. Yeah, I believe so. Thanks for watching, and I do apologize if I was a bit scattered. I feel like I was today. I wanted to get the podcast in today, though, because we actually have some sun. I don't know if you can tell, but in fact, I can see some blue sky right now, which is amazing. And it's been really dark here, like really dark. So I was thinking, how am I going to film a podcast when it's so dark? I mean, I can. It would just be really bad lighting. So when I looked at the weather forecast this morning, I saw that we were supposed to have like some pops of sun. I thought, oh, gotta do it today. And I was ready. I had everything ready. I just had to gather it up and bring it upstairs so that I could film. So, okay. Well, thank you guys for watching. Oh, thank you for all your podcast suggestions on my last video. There are a lot of them I already watched or was familiar with, but then there were some that I had never heard of before. So, of course, I have not checked them all out yet because, I don't have time to sit all day and listen to podcasts as much as I would like to do that some days. But I'm going to eventually get around to checking all of those different podcasts out. So I thank you guys so much for those suggestions, for your sweet and encouraging comments. And hopefully I will be back with an episode before Christmas. I would love to do Vlogmas, but I'm not sure if I can handle that. It's a lot. I always really, really enjoy watching, oh my goodness, I forgot her name. A Homespun House. What is her name? Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. A Homespun House. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. She has the yarn company, and she's done Vlogmas the last I don't know, 2 or 3 years. She just moved to the United States from Germany, and so I always enjoyed her Vlogmas videos from when they were in Germany, and I just like to see the different traditions and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to her videos that she's going to be putting out, because she is doing it again. Why can't I think of her name? It's driving me nuts that I cannot think of her name. I mean, I know that you guys know who I'm talking about, but it's just making me annoyed that I cannot think of her name. Because I clearly know it, it's just not coming out right now. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe doing some videos, just shorter videos of what we're doing. I mean, we don't really, it's not like we live in the city, so it's not always incredibly exciting, you know, the month leading up to Christmas, but I don't know, it's a cozy month, and so I might like to share some of those moments with you guys. Let me know what you think. All right, well, you guys have a fantastic day. I am going to get this mess cleaned up, and then I think I'm going to go outside and enjoy the sun a little bit. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.